are.
Hi, Christina.
Why? How comes that you have the mask?
I'm in a public place.
Okay, your office. I'm in a public space myself, so maybe we should do it with the mask. I didn't expect that.
I thought I'd surprise you.
Well, I was telling our friends that from my point of view, what you do is a sort of anthropological scouting of traditional heritage of your country, but not only of your country, not only of the Emirates, and you will explain it to us. And moreover, it does. Let me talk to our friends. It doesn't just go around to develop and to discover the cultural tradition of his country, but he also found an excellent way to make it alive and to produce objects that he sells, but also to promote the job in certain areas, to recreate the environment, tell me if I'm wrong, to the environment where the ancient agriculture, culture can be developed. I remember your coffee, for instance. So we will tell us about the coffee also. By the way, I have a cup of coffee which is not yours. I will expect to come back to Dubai. So okay. So, Mohammed, just tell us about you, what you do. How did you develop this love for the traditions of your country?
Sure. Thank you, first of all, so much for having me on this chat. And honestly, I'm honored to be speaking in the English language to a larger audience. And I think that's something we've been lacking in our part of the world. So thank you for the kind introduction. I'm seriously humbled. I hope I'm somewhere close to, what you're saying that I am. So to start off, just to give you a little bit of background, I think, I went into this field and where the passion for it came from. I'm not sure if you can hear me, Christina, can you?
I can. I hear you. It's perfect.
Okay, excellent, because it froze up a little bit, so I just wanted to make sure. So basically, let me know if you can't hear me at any point.
It's fine. Everything is fine.
Okay, excellent. So basically, what ended up happening was, we were starting, it was around 2011, 2012. I was in a corporate job. I liked what I did, but I couldn't create the impact I usually like to create. I have a medical engineering background, and my last position, I was running a spine surgery center. So I reached a level where I felt like I wasn't being very useful at my workplace. And at that point, I decided that I want to do something I'm passionate about. And just to give you a little bit of background, it was around 2011-12. There was the Arab Spring, a lot of negative media towards the region, a lot of terrorism, things that basically don't make you feel good when you watch the TV. So it reached a point where, even myself and my business partner right now, we both started feeling, we started doubting ourselves in our region, that we don't have good content, we don't have anything good, everything is bad. So it reached this level where we're like, this is impossible. I'm sure we have beautiful traditions and beautiful items that we can actually look into and develop. So this was the very beginnings. I come from even personally from a multicultural background, in the sense that my parents come from different tribes. They lived in different areas, for example, India, and these areas where they grew up and went to school. and then moved back to the UAE. And at that time, there was no UAE, it was Dubai. So that multicultural background, the quest to kind of search for identity, and at the same time, coupled with all this negativity towards the region, is kind of what gave birth to this passion. To show the world that, no. To show myself first, and Munira, my business partner, for us to show ourselves first, and then to show the world that, listen, we actually have a beautiful region with beautiful elements, whether you're talking about arts, whether you're talking about architecture, whether you're talking about food, whether you're talking about language, whether you're talking about crafts, and it goes on, archaeology. You're talking about, you're literally sitting and living in one of the oldest areas that early humans crossed over to go to the rest of the world. So, this was, and they've left their mark, and our latest collection is all about this. So that's how we started to look into culture, and we put down 3 very vague but broad goals that would kind of guide us until where we are today. So those goals were to preserve a part of the region's identity. That was number 1. Wanted to represent the region in a positive light to the world. And third was we wanted to leave a positive impact as we were doing the first 2 things. So we weren't sure where to begin and how to start. So we naturally started with footwear because it was one of the products that in our recent days had died out. And we wanted to bring it back in a more cultural light and more modern light. So to give it the right it deserves in a modern context, which is today. So that was our, I think, our main, let's say, debut collection with how we started off. And then we decided with every collection, we wanted light on beautiful concepts from the peninsula. So we did a collection on archaeology, which is our most recent. We did a collection on an art form that was, we did a collection on leather tanning and how leather was tanned. We did, we did a collection on certain raw materials, where we used to bring them from, like indigo dye came from India. The Portuguese taxed it when they were present in the region. And, all these things we kind of discussed and we shed light on in a contemporary context. So what does that mean? Maybe you were asking.
Yes, but when you approach some of these aspects, do you go and as an amateur way, or do you prepare yourself? Or do you want to find out what you're looking for? And, I have your shoes, and I remember that on your shoes there is a decoration that you showed me belongs to an architectonical design in some place in the desert. So there are so many problems, like conservation of the original patterns, then representation of the original patterns, update, and all these things. But really, when you go and explore something, do you know already what you are looking for, or you find what you find and you enjoy it and you find the way to develop it?
So initially, of course, we had to just, take a flight, drive somewhere in the middle of the desert and meet Bedouin tribes and try to understand our region. I think that was the biggest challenge, because as a region, we had very limited documented sources. So, when we were starting in 2014, it was even much less. So, you couldn't really get access to this kind of information online. You had to really just go there and try to find out. Not much Arabic material was there, and whatever was documented, we found in books by Orientalists that visited the region from the Western world. And that posed one problem, because we had the narrative of the Western eye, and we didn't understand the local narrative. And so we had to actually get on a flight and go somewhere and, try to dig deep into different societies, live with different communities, and try to understand more what they're trying to, what they have as cultural material. Because for them, it's day-to-day life, right? But for the rest of the world, this is actually something that's really valuable.
Yes, absolutely. Also because when we think of the Emirates, really, we don't think of those aspects that you are so nicely showing also in your Instagram account, for instance. And so it's really a surprise. And can you show us something? Because before, when we prepared this little chat, you were showing me your new location, and in that I can find some interesting things that you can talk to us also. Yes.
Definitely. So
Yes.
I'll start off with some products I have close to me right now. I mean, one of the things, that was very popularly used in the region was camel leather. But very rarely do we see brands using camel leather in a high-end contemporary context. So we try to find colors that are more modern, that that relate to us today. So these are camel leather hides that we did as an oil pull-up, milled in different ways. We use them in our accessories. We use them in different items. We're just moving, so a lot of the items are scattered around. But more than that, we then had to create a concept, right? So how can you take something traditional, Christina, and make it relevant to people today? Because one of the challenges of preservation has been that we weren't able to create the relevance between past and present. And that for us was a big point of focus. We said, okay, it's very important to preserve the past because that's the way we will know what the original thing looked like. But how can we continue to represent the past today in a context that makes sense to me and you and maybe the younger generations? And that way, we said we have to contemporize it. So one example is we found, a very old, I don't have a picture with me right now, but a very old carving of a man standing in this position. And next to him was a viper, a snake. And there was a cult in this region that used to adore snakes. So nobody's going to adore snakes today, and nobody's going to wear something that has a guy with hands up with a snake next to him. So he said, how can we use this to create a pattern that's more contemporary? So this is our latest collection. This is a men's sandal. And if you notice, we've used the print of the same viper snake that was being adored. And then we used a contemporary pattern that we inspired and laser burned using laser technology on leather. And that laser burn pattern is a contemporary context of a guy doing this, an art form that's maybe 2,000-3,000 years old or more. And we just reintroduce it in a contemporary context today. So that's one of the ways we contemporize. Another way, for example, on the ladies collection, this is our ladies sandal. This was inspired by Bronze Age tombs. So you're talking about 4,000 to 5,000 years old tombs that exist in the region. The tombs had similar shapes as the studs that we've used here. They're cylindrical but also coned up on the top. So so we use these in copper because the copper color represents the Bronze Age, and we did it in a contemporary context to tell a story that we then designed through the grains of the rocks and the mountains in the region. So again, everything that we take is solidified from here but presented in a very contemporary context. We were speaking about the cups.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
So I was telling you about the guy that has his hands up and had a snake next to him. This is, I don't know if you could see it, but this is the pattern. From this, we also made coffee cups. We're going to be launching very soon, and they haven't been launched yet. And we created patterns that we took from a very simple carving that we found in the mountains of Fujairah in the UAE. And things like this is what creates content for us and drives design. Similarly, we're working on a prototype right now for a mask, a face mask, since
beauty
these days. but that pattern is not random. The pattern, of course, we tried to study ancient texts, and I was showing you your name earlier, written in ancient texts. It's flipped on the screen as you see it. It should be mirrored, but basically this is Christina, written in ancient text, and okay. Nobody speaks ancient text today or reads ancient text today, but that doesn't mean I can't create beautiful designs from it. So here what we did was, just to show you the journey, we took the word face mask, which is over here. It says kamama, and we transformed it to the original ancient Arabic, which says kamama in ancient Arabic. And then from that, we inspired a pattern that we then printed on to a face mask. So, and as a design, I mean, if you look at this, it looks just like a geometrical design, but you don't really understand what it says. But the story of it actually tells you, you know, we're creating a word from a word in ancient text, a design. So wearing it as a consumer, you feel that, okay, I'm keeping culture alive, and I have meaning to this product that I've purchased. And at the same time, it's a 2,800-year-old alphabet. Similarly, we use, if you notice here on the right foot, we put the Hijri, the Arabic year of production. So this talks about the year that it was produced, but in Arabic. And only in the importance of the right in our culture, right? We eat with our right hand, we enter the house with our right foot, you know, we go to places with right. So I think we wanted to exemplify that through a design element. And, you know, with these little touches, we created a story and meaning and value to the consumer.
That's really fantastic. And how many professionals do you have working with you? I mean, do you have experts working with you to decipher the ancient pre-Islamic Arabic, or do you have other people that can help you in that? And the second part of the question is how everything you do impacts on the preservation, really the real preservation on site, for instance, of these cultural heritage, of the traditional cultural heritage.
I think I'll begin by answering the first question, which was, you know, how big is our team and who helps us? Our team is very small. We're a team of 6 people. Munira and I, my business partner, we drive the research, the design, and the strategy of everything we do. Then we have a team that helps us with logistics, and that includes coordination between factories, you know, whatever we produce, with you know, all kinds of logistical work. We have a team that helps us. So our team is very, very small and limited, but we've worked before with some interns from the UAE. We worked with some universities locally just to get an extra helping hand, and at the same time create a bigger impact. For the second part of your question, we actually have diversified our work streams away from just being a product brand. So we started off as a product brand, but because we were creating so much research in order to create designs, we found that we were rich in access to specific communities that other people didn't have access to. And at the same time, we found that we had the ability to comprehend both sides, the modern side and the cultural side. And that allowed us to be kind of like a bridge between people trying to understand the cultural world and don't have access to them, and at the same time, people who are operating in the modern world who want access to the cultural world. So what we did was we diversified into 3 work streams, one being Tamashi Soul, and soul I mean as in the spirit. And that basically involves our research, our consulting work. We do events, we do art curation, we do many different things related to culture in the field that fall under Tamashi Soul. Then we have the Tamashi products, which are leather products, our coffee cups that I just showed you, face masks. And then we also have Tamashi trips or experiences. Basically, we do cultural trips to areas that otherwise people wouldn't have access to through our platforms. And all this happened because of the initial work we were doing to do research for our designs. So how does this contribute to the overall preservation of the original thing? Is basically by our trips element, we actually try to help and create sustainable income for families that are actually working in the traditional arts and they're actually working in the traditional crafts. So this way there's a sustainable income for them to preserve what they're doing. So it creates incentive. Secondly, in terms of our Tamashi Soul and research elements, we try to hook up certain government bodies and show to them the importance of preserving certain elements and creating interesting cultural content to create competitive advantage for our region, especially in a world that's so globalized. So that's the way we've been kind of contributing to conserving the original art forms or whatever you mean.
Yes, out of curiosity, which is your typical yes, tourist that joins your trip? Who comes with you in your trip? Is it the typical person that arrives to Dubai, doesn't know what to do after a while and wants to explore something or something else, or it's someone with a specific interest in that?
So we've had a mix over the years, honestly, and when we started, we were 100% GCC nationals, so people from the region who wanted to explore more about the region. And I'd say people who pretty much are similar to me, which were seeking identity, trying to understand the peninsula more, and creating interesting content, whether photographers or artists, or even just people who are just interested in traveling and doing something different. So that was our initial batch of people. But that we saw change. We had a lot of people from different nationalities join us, but the majority remains to be the GCC. And I believe that mainly is because of the access element right now to us. But it might change moving forward. And I think especially now because the largest part of the peninsula is in Saudi Arabia, and access to Saudi Arabia was challenging before the visa system that was launched very recently. I think with travel opening up again after this Corona period, we hope that things will go back to normalish and we can get a bigger chunk of non-GCC clientele.
Yes, but do you think that digitization can help to develop these areas as well?
Yes, definitely. I mean, for one big element of preserving the past is through digitizing, because it gives access to a lot more people, and also it makes it more relevant. I have two little nieces at home, and they know how to use an iPad more than they know how to talk. So, you use something in digital content, you can get them interested. The opportunities are limitless. Imagine taking all this content and creating cartoons or creating animations or creating things that relate to a different clientele, doing it in different languages, virtual tours, what have you. You can continue. Literally, the opportunities are limitless when you go digital.
Yes. Okay. I got two questions from the audience in another channel, and the first question is: what is your suggestion for museums who want to develop a similar model, for example, in their gift shop, and have an impact on their community? Do you think that museums can follow your path and develop something similar? And what's the suggestion that you would give them?
Definitely. Look, museums they go hand in hand with especially if you're talking about ancient history museums, they go hand in hand with archaeology. And in archaeology, you have so much art forms, you have so many materials, you have so many things that you can inspire contemporary items from. Whether they be little memorables like keychains, or if they're things like face masks, which I think will be the new normal, at least for the near future. So these things museums should definitely explore. We've worked with a few museums here regionally, and we've actually provided this exact platform to them to think about gift items for their gift shops, whether they be t-shirts, prints on t-shirts, or they be mugs. I wish I had a mug with me right here to show you, but we made a mug using ancient script and writing out I love, the museum was in a Shindaga area of Dubai, so we wrote I love Shindaga. And we wrote it in ancient text on a mug. So that mug can easily be sold in in a museum, and everyone drinks coffee or drinks tea at least. So you have a contemporary item, and I think it's more relevant. Museums are already doing this with magnets, with pens. They're already taking things. It's just about expanding that and making it a little bit more creative. Maybe working with the younger designer audience and to develop those products. And I think it is the only way forward. And digitization, of course. And I saw, especially during the lockdowns that happened worldwide, I saw a lot of the museums went on virtual tours. I think that gave access to so many more people to museums that had never accessed it before. And I think that was something amazing.
Yes, really. The second question: your work adapts the past to make it contemporary. Have you ever encountered resistance by local communities or other in this readaptation of the past?
Yes, look, resistance is normal to any change, and I think this is something. It's a universal phenomenon. So you'll see it in Europe, you'll see it here, you'll see it everywhere. Of course, there's resistance, and I think we, at least in our case, what we try to do is we try to mitigate or reduce the impact of this resistance by creating incentive. And the way we did that was, number one, financial incentive. We made sure that they can see that they're being benefited financially, the communities that we visited, the work that we did with them, the territories that we entered. And of course, we didn't begin doing work with them until we lived with them for a good chunk of time and got to know them. They got to know us. They got to know our intentions. You know, the intentions weren't purely financial. There was a passion element to it. So that was number one. Number two, we tried to show them how they can create sustainable income and through reaching a larger audience. And I think that resonated even more than the financial incentive we gave them. Because by financial incentive, I mean every time I'd go to live with them, I'd give them a dollar amount for their time and to take care of me. So that was number one. But number two, other than that dollar amount, it was what they were passionate about is for more people to get to know them and their culture and how that can create income over a large period of time. That was the passion element, and it was unbelievable how people were passionate about showing their culture to the world. I mean, there's one beautiful element which is in a specific part in Saudi where girls wear an orange scarf if they're not married. It was like a way of saying I'm single. And, you know, they were so passionate explaining that to me. And, you know, imagine, you know, they would love to tell a larger audience, by the way, this is who we are. It's not all about, you know, oppression towards women or, you know, terrorism. No, we have beautiful elements, and come see it. Come see it. We'd love to. You know,
I'm looking forward to come seeing. And really, Mohammed, next time I come to Dubai, I will stay 1 month to join your excursions. Really.
We'd be honored. You should stay more than a month. You know,
but maybe I can give you a hand somewhere. I can wash dishes, whatever. But
we'd be honored to have you with us, and we're the ones who would be washing the dishes. Don't worry.
So I thank you really very much, because it was very, very interesting, and the time flew because it's already half an hour, but I wish I could stay here longer, but I know that you have a curfew later on.
We need to get back home before they shut the doors.
So thank you very much, Mohammed. It was a pleasure. I hope that maybe we can redo another chat. We can meet again some other time, and so maybe you can take us in your trips again with fantasy. But at least it's very interesting to know, and it's very relevant what you do and your method also, because for not being a person that comes from the cultural sector with the cultural background, I think it's one of the best example that we people of museum can learn to follow. So thank you very much, and thank you for your time, and see you soon then.
Thank you for all the work you do as well. Thank you so much, Christina. It's a pleasure.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
Ciao.